Hey, welcome to the continuing winemaker series here at the Original Wine of the Month Club. And wow, what a surprise this morning! I have Fabrice Brunel from Châteauneuf-du-Pape and André Brunel, Domaine André Brunel.
Domaine André
Brunel. From the Côte-d'Aron and Châteauneuf-du-Pape region. But that's not always what he's done. And what's intriguing about this to me is that he was doing other things like I was. And my father came to me also and said, I want you back in the business. So what did you do? You went to college. You got out of school and you went to college.
Yes. I went to college. I went to engineering degree. I went to business school. I spent 10 years in Paris.
So you're
looking for a supply chain company. And then my dad, 6 years ago, asked me to come back. So I was the unique child, so he didn't have any choice. He has to do with what he has. So he asked me to come back, and as it's a family estate for about 6 generations, I think it was my duty to come back and to be the new winemaker in the family.
So, but you were in college and you studied engineering, electrical engineering, right? Yeah. And were you thinking at all that you would go back to the winery one day?
I was drinking a lot at that time. Yeah, I was
so you were practicing.
Yeah, I was practicing. So I knew that one day I would have to come back. So I had practical.
That's good. That was smart, right? So you go to the wine shop in Paris.
Yes.
And
but I think it was interesting to also to work in Paris and to do something else, just instead of just doing wine. So I think he gave me an overview of what the business could be, and it could be interesting for me after to come back with my experience in a big city like Paris.
And business too, business school.
Business school. Right. So I learn how to run a company.
Yep. And
how to improve the supply chain and the process in the wine industry, even if. Wine is kind of magic.
Yeah,
and,
it's much more
important. It's much more important to talk about wine. But when you are running a company and even an estate, you need also to know how to run operations.
I think that's important. I worked for a very, very large company, and then I worked for a very, very small company, and I thought I was ready for this when my dad came to me, and you were ready. You done the thing. You dealt with other people. You dealt with a large company.
I think I wasn't ready to have my dad as a boss.
Yeah.
So my dad was raised my dad, and now it became my boss.
Yes.
So sometimes it's very nice to work inside your family, but you also have to deal with your dad as a boss.
I know that feeling.
When you ask your boss or your dad to increase your salary, it's much more difficult when it's your dad.
That's kind of tricky. But you don't have any siblings.
No, I managed to get rid of them when they were young.
Oh, good. That was excellent work.
It looks like accident, so it was very nice. So I'm the only one remaining.
So you have to.
I have to behave.
Right. So, well, that's interesting stuff. So 6 years now you've been making the wine, but you're in charge of all the operations, not just the winemaking.
Yes, my dad is in charge of the vines because what he enjoys doing the most is to be in his vines. To be an instructor.
Yes.
He's the true peasant in the good sense of the word. He enjoys being in the vines, look at how the vines are growing, but he doesn't care too much about customers.
Yeah.
But
he needs customers.
He needs customers. If he wants to buy a new tractor every year,
we need customers.
We need customers. So now I'm in charge of winemaking and also running the company and the sales.
So before you came, was he doing everything?
Yes.
So he was selling and everything.
Yeah, he was selling. He was doing everything. But now he turned 70. I think he's working for 50 years now in the vines. So I think it was his time now to just enjoy.
Yes.
Just doing what he enjoys the most. That means being in the vines, being in the vineyards.
So, where is the brand most popular in the world? Are you obviously in France, in that part of France, but United States, Asia, rest of Europe, what?
We sell a lot in the US. We are selling wines in the US for the last 35 years, so it's one of our major markets. We also sell a lot in Japan.
Oh, you do, Japan, yeah.
And we sell a lot also in the Scandic countries like Norway, Sweden, and Denmark.
Really? Yeah, that's interesting.
Because these people, it's quite dark and cold a big part of the year, so they need a full-bodied wine to sustain, and so we sell a lot also in the Scandic countries.
That's interesting. But China yet? No.
Not China. We didn't manage to find an importer in China.
Yeah, that's hard.
And by the way, we don't have too much wine to sell. Also, so we
have to make sure.
A big part of our wines is sold under allocation. And so if we find a new importer in China, we need to have more wine to sell. So it's not our goal. this day.
And I don't know, they like, the Chinese like their Napa Valley and their Bordeaux, maybe Burgundy now a little bit, but they're very specific about, what they're ready to drink, because they're a very young drinking nation.
Yeah,
They don't
yeah.
understand wine that much.
Mm.
They don't understand the value of interesting wines like these, but they might come around. The only transaction I've ever done in Japan, China, I lost money,
Okay.
so I don't do it anymore.
I think we'll see for China maybe in the 5 or 10 years, but we need to find a good importer.
Yeah,
to start
that's the
now.
thing. Well, you have to trust the importer,
Yeah.
right? So this is the Grenache. So this is under Domaine
André Brunel.
André Brunel, and this is 100% Grenache.
100% Grenache, no oak. So we don't want to use any oak on this wine. We want to insist on the fruit. So we want to make a good wine for every day.
Yeah.
And it's nice to have good wines for every day when you are having a pizza, a steak, or barbecue. It's an easy wine, nice fruit, nice freshness.
I like the structure of this wine. Even there's no oak, but there's plenty of fruit, there's plenty of acid to carry this wine
Yeah.
for a little while. And
I think it's a wine that you can keep for 1 or 2 years. And
Yeah,
it's not the objective of the wine. I think it's a wine for every day. So the objective is not to keep this wine for 5 years. If you forget it for 2 years, it's okay. It's going to be still good after 2 years. But I think it's a very good wine for partying, for when you just go back from your work and just want to enjoy a good glass of wine.
it's well made.
So
It's got great structure. It's Vaucluse.
Yeah.
Is Grenache the main grape of Vaucluse, or is it all the rest as well?
No,
Syrah?
the main grape is Grenache.
Yeah, Grenache.
The North Vaucluse, it's Syrah, but the main grape, the historic grape of Vaucluse is Grenache.
And
So
Grenache is making some headways in the world. Lots of Grenache are being built.
Yeah.
Spain, even in America now, we're growing some more, and it's becoming quite popular.
But Grenache is quite, I would say, an easy grape to work with because it's you make good wines. It's not very tannic, so you make nice wine with a good fruit. It's not fragile. I mean, it resists humidity, so it's quite a healthy grape. And we also have a nice production. It's nice and high production.
It's got good yields.
Good yields,
Yeah.
good yields. Yeah.
So this is, what's the alcohol content of that?
It's 13.5. 13.5.
Oh, 13.5 is great. Because we were talking about, and I know what you're going to say anyway, about natural wines. So you've already practiced this answer. But there's this movement about natural wines, and when I was reading on it, they talked about the alcohol content, and I'm not sure why, but they want alcohol content less than 12.5. It has nothing to do with the term natural,
Yeah.
but I think it has something to do with the carbohydrates and the resulting calories you intake, because if it's over 12.5%. But
I think for the natural wines, as a winemaker, we try to improve our way of making better wines. So you have different ways. You have the organic ways, you've got the biodynamic ways, and 5 or 6 years ago now you have the natural wines way. So I think it's very interesting thing to look at. And
it is important.
It's very important, yeah? Not to put too much sulfites and to make the best and the healthiest wine for your consumers.
So let me ask you then, you're 6 generations, so
Yeah.
that's great grandfather.
In 1750.
Okay.
Yeah.
How much was his wines were natural, or her wines, your grandfather, right? So
Yeah.
his wines were natural, weren't they?
Well, but I didn't taste. I didn't taste the wine from my
You didn't
granddad.
taste
I think
But I mean,
the oldest wine we have dates from the 1965. It's the oldest
Really?
wine we have. Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about 1965. What were the manufacturing techniques in 1965? Did they overdose sulfur
The-
dioxide? No.
The good thing with wines that are from the 60s or 70s is that now they are still alive. So I was quite impressed
Yes.
because they didn't have the techniques of bottling.
No,
They just put the bottle just below the vat. They open the vat and they
was it.
they close by hand.
Really?
So it's quite
No bottling line, no.
The bottling line. No, there's no bottling line.
Filtration,
Yeah.
finding?
No filtration, no fining.
Really?
So I think it was quite, but maybe because there was no filtration and no fining, it was a lot of material inside the wine,
Yes.
and I think that's why the wine survives. So now I
You
think the
think
wine.
that's a lot of the
Yeah,
backbone
yeah.
of the wine that
Yeah.
kept it in.
So now I think the wine, our wines now they are really good for the first 10 or 20 years. I'm not sure they can survive for 50.
That's an interesting concept. Now you think but wouldn't they bottle from the top of the vat and not get as much of the solids in the bottom?
Yeah.
Right. So but you still end up with something.
You
Solids.
You end up with something. So I think the wine at this time needs a few years to age and to be enjoyed to drink.
Yep.
Now we make wines that could be enjoyed quite fast. Even for Châteauneuf-du-Pape, it's wines that can last for 10 or 15 years, but you can drink right now. I think at this time, for the first 10 years, you could have a too tannic wine that couldn't be drunk.
So, when do you open these wines from 1965?
Yeah.
Your girlfriend's birthday, or
So it's just for me.
yeah, just for you. Oh, yeah, well, that's good. That's better.
No, sometimes it's nice to know how to your wine aging. So twice per year we make vertical testing with my dad, and so we open one wine for every decade.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah. Just to see how the wine is evolving, and my dad is quite happy also to open a wine from his own dad.
Oh, that's great. That is special, actually. So now we're talking about family, and we have this wine here, the Cuvée Sabrine, Côte-du-Rhône Village. And Sabrine just happens to be
My girlfriend.
your girlfriend.
So
She's going to be a YouTube sensation now because her name's on the video.
And I hope I won't have to change the labels in the coming years.
Yes.
So I hope I hope I can keep this. Hope I can keep this label.
That's good. I'm sure she appreciates that too. Right? So this Côte d'Or is Grenache Mourvèdre Syrah.
Sure. It's a GSM Grenache for the fruits, because Grenache is very nice grape for an easy wine. For the first wine we tasted, it's a very nice grape for this kind of purpose. If you want to have a full body wine and a wine that you can keep for 3 to 5 or even 10 years, sometimes Grenache is not sufficient.
Yes.
That's why you blend Grenache with Syrah and Mourvèdre, that brings tannins and structure and color also. Because when consumers want to drink Côte-du-Rhône Village or Châteauneuf-du-Pape, they want to drink a deep red wine.
Yes.
And sometimes Grenache is quite light in color.
Yep.
That's why we blend with Syrah and Mourvèdre to bring color, tannins, and
And the Mourvèdre is bringing the tannins.
Yeah, and spicy note.
And the spiciness.
And spicy note.
I love Mourvèdre. It's just
But sometimes Syrah in the south of France is a grape which is quite hard to work with. First, because it's quite fragile. If you miss your harvest day for 2 to 3 days, you can climb up 1 degree or 1.5 degrees of alcohol. So you have to be very precise on the day you are going to harvest. And it can change the taste of the blend quite easily. If you add 5% more of Syrah, it can change totally your taste.
It's a very aggressive grape that way.
That's why we prefer working with Mourvèdre.
So when you're picking, we're not just doing a bricks test. Are you tasting the grapes? Are you checking the skins for the pH? What are you? All those things.
I think we have different ways to make the harvest. First we taste the skin. So we taste the grapes. So we taste the skin and we taste the pepins. Yes. Just to be sure they are not too green. Yeah. And after we also have chemical testing. So just to be sure the sugar, pH, and acidity. Just to be sure that we have 2 ways of testing. Just validating. Yeah. So my dad tastes the grapes, and I prefer to go through the.
Well, no, but that's I've heard that a lot lately, and some of it seems to be tied to the change in the weather, and that they've moved away from some of the traditional methods for determining when to pick. And you go home with a bunch of grapes. You sit at the dinner table and you start tasting grapes, right?
But, a few decades ago, we were harvesting quite soon because there were a lot of hunters in Châteauneuf-du-Pape, and so they wanted to have everything harvested before the opening of the season. Yeah. So they just want to harvest quite fast, just to be sure everything is inside.
Yeah, right, of course.
Yeah, and so now we don't hunt too much.
So much.
We don't hunt too much, so now we have more time to harvest.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
So we start harvesting late of August for the whites, and we finish mid of October with Mourvèdre.
And so seems like a few weeks earlier than normal. I mean, later than normal. Yeah. Though it used to be. So Le Caillou. Now we had we were talking off camera about Monsieur Ducasse, who can determine the grapes, not only what the cow ate for the butter, but where. This is true story that I was told to me about where the cows were when they ate, like close to the barn or away from the barn. And you're telling me you can tell me how large the stone is or the rock is based on the wine. Is that true?
So sometimes I make very bad jokes.
No, I'm kidding.
and I'm way not as good as Mr. Ducasse, because sometimes when I taste my wines in blind tasting, I never manage to recognize it. So
no, it's hard. It's very hard to do. No, I do this. This is. I think I've tasted somewhere around 100,000 wines in 30 years. And I taste around 3,000 a year. Okay. So I still would have trouble doing that even after all that. But this is gorgeous wine. That's all that we really care about, right?
Yeah.
This is really good wine. So
It's,
this Les Cailloux is the brand name, and the Châteauneuf-du-Pape, and it's all from estates.
Yeah, all estate. So we have these vines for about 250 years.
Wow.
And so what is interesting, we have around 12 plots in Châteauneuf-du-Pape, and our plots are located in the different locations. So it's quite interesting because we have different types of soils. We have rocky soils, which is the most famous, and we also have sandy and chalky soil. And so we can adapt the best grape for each type of soil.
Yes.
And so that's why we have a lot of complexity in our wines, because it's not coming from one single type of soil.
This is very complex, and it's
Yeah.
changing since we opened it this morning. Getting all kinds of wonderful spice components in the middle, and it's GSM again.
GSM.
You know.
And what we want to do with this wine is not to make the most impressive or the most powerful wine we can find. We want to make wines that people can enjoy. So it's a true Châteauneuf-du-Pape. It's a 14 degrees alcohol. It's a full-bodied wine, but it's a wine that you can still enjoy one glass, even two glasses, and you can finish the entire bottle quite easily. And that's what we are looking for.
I would do that too. Though I have to tell you, my wife, every time I try to serve her Syrah, she tells me, she catches me. I can bring her California, domestic, French, imported. She still catches me. If I don't give her a Bordeaux varietal, I get in trouble. Only once have I stumped her. So she's better at tasting.
She's very good.
Yeah, she's better than I am.
You should hire her.
So I should. Well, she actually does work here already. So this is a very special treat for us. We have the Centenaire. Now this is a plot, vineyard.
It's a single plot.
It's a single plot. And so what I loved, what you described this earlier, was it's kind of like Burgundy, where it's one grape in one plot, basically.
So there's a story among this, which is a true story.
Yeah.
That my dad has a winemaker dinner with Burgundy producers. And these friends told my dad in Châteauneuf-du-Pape, you can make good wines only because you blend grapes and you blend plots. In Burgundy, we are much better because we can make good wines with only one grape and one plot. And so my dad, okay guys, we're going to show you what we can do in Châteauneuf with only one grape and one plot. And so we decided to make this wine. It was in 1999. It was to celebrate the 100 years of plantation of the harvest of the plot, which was planted in 1889.
Really?
Yeah. So it was, and the objective was just to make one cuvée this year, and we had good press coverage. I think we had 97 or 98 points at this time.
Wow.
And so my dad decided to make this wine once again, but only on top vintages. So we just make this wine on the very top vintages, when we are sure that the Les Cailloux is also a very good wine. Mm-hmm. So on average, it's about 4,000 bottles 1 year on 3. So it's a very rare and a very specific product. And it's very nice because it's one of the best expression of Grenache you can have. So you have the complexity, you have got the elegance, and you also have the capacity of aging, because the vine is old, it's 125 years now.
That's amazing.
It's a very old vine, and so you have enough concentration even if it's only Grenache.
Right. So that's that's an interesting story, because the Burgundians will tell you that their job is different than everybody else's in the wine world, because they're not allowed to do anything else, and they have to work with what they're given, and that's the soil, right?
Yeah.
But it is interesting that part of France, the soil is so different from across the street.
Yeah.
You know, you change things. But this is a great story, because Grenache is an up-and-coming grape, and a lot of people are taking to it, and they're starting to grow more of it. I've had a lot of Spanish Grenache lately. So, what did your dad's friends think? Do they agree with him?
Yes, they do agree. So now we managed to exchange this wine with some Moranché
so
or nice Pommard. It's very interesting for us. Very interesting for us to
I can see
to
that.
exchange,
It's close to the complexity of a Pommard, the density of a Pommard.
It's interesting because it's a wine you have a nice concentration. You've got an extra finish, but it's not too much.
Yeah.
It's still a wine that you can drink by itself. So it's a very good pairing with a game or a very nice piece of beef. But you can still enjoy this wine by itself without having a feeling of alcohol or without being drunk at the end of the bottle.
So in the years that we don't make Centenaire, it all goes into Les Cailloux.
Yeah, it's a wine every year. We could make the Centenaire every year, but this wine helps us to increase the quality of the caillou when
Wow.
we don't make the Centenaire.
Now I know you have to take this bottle on for the rest of the day, but
I'm sorry.
you may lose it.
So
It may get lost here.
you can pour a bit more for yourself.
Yeah, thank you. So now we're gonna head to the whites. So we're gonna do the Bécasson.
So Bécasson, it comes from a French bird, la bécasse, which is game cock. And so we
Which
sold.
is what's on the picture. Yeah.
And so we sold a lot of this wine in the Gamecock County.
Oh, the
close-
school,
yeah.
the college.
No, close to Charleston.
Oh,
there's
yeah,
Gamecock
right,
County
that's
close to
the one,
Charleston,
yeah.
And so we sold a lot of this wine there.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
What a nose! You know, the noses become more effusive too, huh?
And that's why I prefer to taste the whites after the reds. Because you increase the sensation of freshness of our white wines if you taste them after a heavy red like the Centenaire.
No, I agree.
So it's a
Agree.
blend, it's Grenache Blanc, Roussanne and Claret, no oak. I think it's a very good wine for lunch when it starts being warm outside. It's a very good wine for the aperitif.
It's got great weight too. I mean, you
Yeah.
could have this with your meal for sure. There's sugar in this a little bit. With
It's very
4%.
good for with oysters, for example.
Oh yeah, for sure. So any sugar,
No sugar.
yeah. See, but
No, we-
lots of fruit.
We don't leave any sugar because I think it's quite dangerous if you have a new fermentation in the bottle, if you leave some sugar. And if you want to get rid of this risk, you have to put more sulfite. So we don't want to put too much sulfite in our wines. We try to decrease the quantity of sulfites.
That's interesting.
And so we don't leave any sugar in this wine.
That's it. It's really good. It's really good. This
So-
is. I can see this.
The sensation of sweetness, it comes from the Roussanne,
Yeah,
which is a very nice and aromatic grape.
but it's not cloying. It's not aggressive. It's just part of the. It's part of the complexity, which is really really good. And I can see this for somebody that likes to drink California Chardonnay to give them
Yeah.
something different. That's.
It's the thing with we have to cope with is that it's not a name of a grape on the label.
Yeah,
So sometimes
that's the problem.
it's difficult
Yeah.
for restaurants because they enjoy having the Chardonnay Pinot Grigio wine.
Yes. I
So
know.
now it's a round blend. So sometimes they say it's a very good wine, but I don't know how to sell it in my restaurant.
And when you figure that out, you can tell the world because a friend of mine is going to France in September. He's going to be in Beaune for a couple of nights. I set him up at a tasting at Louis Jadot, and he ran off to the market to buy wine to taste Louis Jadot wine. Of
Okay.
course, he bought the varietal wine.
Okay, of course.
He bought Chardonnay and he bought Pinot
Pinot
Noir.
Noir. Of course.
And I said, "Why don't you call me first? I could have helped you, figure that out." But so this is the Châteauneuf-du-Pape,
White
the Le
Châteauneuf.
Caillou white,
White Châteauneuf
different grapes.
It's quite rare. It's only 5% of the production which is in white.
Really wow.
Because it's Châteauneuf-du-Pape is quite warm and quite dry climate, so it's quite easy to make a white wine at 15 or even 16 degrees of alcohol. And so if you want to make
Really?
so it will be quite heavy.
So you have to be very careful when you pick these grapes.
to
No?
pick, and also you need to have a specific plot, which is a bit more fresh to keep some freshness and to keep some acidity. So it's a blend of 80% Roussanne and 20% Grenache Blanc. The 100% Roussanne juice is quite impressive, but we think it could be too much after one glass.
I think so.
It's like a nice Viognier, sometimes it could be
Yes.
too much. That's why we blend with Grenache Blanc, that brings freshness and acidity,
Great,
to have
yeah.
a well-balanced
I
wine.
think that's a great idea because Grenache Blanc will not thin it out, but it'll bring it some balance. That Roussanne kind of heavy sometimes if it's made by itself, and a little too tropical by itself. So this is a great melding.
So it could be a very good wine for lobster, crab cake,
Jeez.
sea bass.
What time is it? Lunchtime already?
Yeah. We're going to finish the tasting quite fast, and we can
Yes.
and we can
Yeah,
go
we'll
to
get some lobster. This is excellent. So popular grape. I mean, popular wine in America. They use so much white Châteauneuf-du-Pape.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's not easy. First, because we don't have a lot of quantities, and many people just know Châteauneuf by the red
Yes,
side,
by the
and
reds, right.
sometimes they don't know that we also make a white in Châteauneuf-du-Pape.
Yeah.
So they say
It is rare.
yeah, so
It
they
is
can
rare.
push. I think I always advise people, okay, if you have customers who enjoy drinking high-end Burgundy like Puligny Montrachet or Meursault, you can say, hey, I've got something new which is very nice, and you can taste the white Châteauneuf. Because you have the complexity, you have got the elegance, and you also have something which is different compared to what you were used to drinking.
It's the American palate. Now the East Coast is a little easier for them to understand and try things. The West Coast, it's difficult. California's got Napa and Sonoma and the Central Coast, and so to break away from their traditional habits is difficult. I have two friends that built new cellars in their homes.
Okay.
And I just took them some other things. I took them some Beaujolais from Châteauneuf-du-Pape, and I took them some Bordeaux. I'm going to take them some Châteauneuf-du-Pape now because I got to get them off of Napa Cabernet. There's more to the wine world than this, right?
You think if you go to a wine cellar in France, they say, hey, you have got something else in the world on French wines, and it's quite difficult to bring some Italian wines or Spanish wines in a French cellar.
I can understand that. Fabrice, it's been a pleasure having you here today. I thank you for stopping in and tasting with us, and we hope to see you again next time you're here.
I hope so.
We'll sit in front of the podcast and we'll do that. Folks, try these wines. We'll bring them in, and you'll get a chance to order them, and you're welcome to call me anytime. No, that's the last question always. Where are the guest quarters? Is there a picture of the chateau here? No, you don't have a picture of the chateau. There must be a guest room in there somewhere.
A what?
A room for visitors.
Yeah, but we don't like receiving people at the estate, so we don't have any room.
All right, I'll stay across the street.
Yeah. I mean, you have to send an email with your resume.
Okay, yes,
we look
course.
at it.
Naturally,
we make an inquiry.
Can I lie on the resume?
If the inquiry is nice,
Yeah.
so it's okay. It's okay. So.
Bright light in my face, lots of questions. Okay, cheers. Cheers.
Enjoy.
Thank you. Cheers.